Hey there guys, I just got back from the Practical Astronomy Show this weekend and I had a really wonderful time meeting some of you guys out there. So a huge thanks to anybody who came up and said hello. You made the weekend for me, you really did. Now, while I was there, I was aware I wanted to make a video for you guys. So what you're going to see throughout the course of this one is a bunch of short interviews with various different astronomers, either at the show floor or at the hotel the night before, whatever it kind of made most sense to record at the time. Apologies in advance, there are going to be some strange camera angles and the audio probably going to be a little bit noisy at times. These were noisy places, of course, but I did my best and I hope that you enjoy it all the same. So without any more ado, on with the show. I hope you enjoy the video, and as always, thank you ever so much for watching. I really do appreciate you all. Cliss, guys. Alright then guys, so I'm here at the Practical Astronomy Show and I'm joined by, if you care to introduce yourself.
Arnstein.
What really got you started first off?
In the first place, I've always been interested in astronomy, and I got in contact with a local astronomy union, and they have some telescopes they could give to people.
Yep.
And I learned one of them, and then I got into the astrophotography. About 10-12 years ago.
What were those kind of loaner telescopes that got you started with it? Could you tell us a little bit more about one of those?
Yeah, I had a small telescope at first 2 years, and I had a Canon 60DA.
Okay.
Yeah, for Astro. But then I got to buy a more expensive camera later on. Yeah. So, you know, this build up and up and up. So in the end, I got the CCD camera with the filter wheel.
Right.
So there where I am now.
Quite a big leap then, going, I guess, from that initial DSLR then to now a CCD or CMOS with a full monochrome filter wheel setup. And what would you say is your favourite object to actually spend time shooting? Is there anything that really stands out for you and always gets the blood pumping kind of thing?
Nebulas and star clusters, very nice targets. And also, of course, the Andromeda Galaxy and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I think for me it's always been galaxies really that get me wondering, because that's the one that incites the most, quite literally, wonder in me. It makes me think what is out there. What drove you towards purchasing a monochrome rather than the other options?
It's the opportunity to get the most detail out of our pictures, and I also saw it as a challenge. MC cameras are very good, but I saw the challenge in taking pictures of monochrome with unlike filters to avoid the light pollution. Yeah.
What would you say you're looking forward to? If this is not too difficult of a question to just drop on you here, what's coming forth and you're looking forward to it in the astronomy world right now? And for some reference for me, it's more developments in AI tools. I find those really exciting in that they're making astronomy more accessible for people. A lot of one-click processing tools and things like that.
Yeah, we got an amazing amount of AI tools from Russell Croman, which we love to use. Yeah. And my challenge now is to build my observatory.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully during this year, and in the autumn I hopefully had everything going up and ready for a new season.
An observatory build, that's always an exciting time. Earlier on today, Arnstein showed me his observatory plans, and it looks like it's going to be a really unique build. I love the look of it. You are faced with a lot of challenges though that I'd say that particularly UK based astronomers kind of aren't. We've got it pretty easy here with builds where we don't have to worry about 2 meters of snow on the roof causing it to cave in or something like that. So could you tell us a little bit about the unique challenges that you're going to face throughout that build?
Yeah, it's you now mentioned it, the snow. And the heavy weight of the snow, and moving the roof in those conditions is going to be a challenge. So you have to be very careful with all the wheels. They're going to roll off the roof and get so strong that it's on the
I mean, the weight must be magnificent. Yeah. Is there anything you would like to say to yourself when you're just starting out, maybe aimed at a beginner out there or something like that? Any advice you'd have liked?
As a beginner, you have to be patient. You're going to do a lot of mistakes, but that's part of the game, and you develop as time goes by. And if you are really interested in this hobby, that's always a challenge to do it better next time.
Yeah, I still get that now.
Yeah, I'm learning something new every day.
Yeah. I think kind of a pursuit as deep as astrophotography is always going to offer that kind of never-ending progression, which you can chase after for as long as you'd like to. The sky's the limit, quite literally. So thanks very much for speaking to me about this, Arnstein. It's been really good. So.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right then, guys, so here I am again, this time doing a second interview with Simon from Simon's Astro. If you'd like to introduce yourself for anybody who doesn't know.
Simon from Simon's Astro on YouTube.
He's got a great channel, guys, so check out the link in the description box down below. I'll post a link to your channel there. And he's got lots of fantastic content. He's a talented guy, you know, he can turn his hand to anything. What I wanted to do is do a couple of interviews today and ask people some questions, basically asking, first of all, when did you get into astrophotography or astronomy at large?
Astrophotography, I got into it in 2020 during COVID.
Right.
Yeah, because I couldn't work, because being a builder I couldn't go into people's houses. So I was I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and I saw the usual Trevor Jones, Chuck, and thought, yeah, this looks pretty good. So I dived into the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Bought a few bits and pieces, and before I knew it, I am where I am now. It's a big hole.
Can't say fairer than that. I mean, for me, it was, you mentioned Trevor Jones there.
Yeah,
same sort of thing. I started off watching Trevor Jones and cut my teeth kind of with that kind of content, which is also a little bit of the inspiration for, I think, what made me want to try and do a YouTube. And I guess that's another thing we have in common. We're both obviously uploading stuff to YouTube and sharing with as many people as we possibly can.
It's great. I just enjoy the making the videos. I enjoy the video editing side of it almost as much as the Astro side of it. I like being creative and hopefully putting that content that people find interesting and even possibly useful. Yeah, the more I do, the more I want to do. I've always been into cameras, and I remember years ago I always wanted to get into videography, that kind of thing. I never did, but this has given me that opportunity to do it. And you know, it's just having this little niche hobby that we have. It's hopefully it's of interest to people, so it's worth doing, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Definitely, that's fantastic. So, in terms of astrophotography, then, what really kind of turns your wheels and makes you want to get out there and spend some time on a target? What's your favourite thing that gets you going?
That's a good question. At the moment, it's just getting a clear sky. That gets me excited. So many times recently, there's been a clear sky, and I've got the Obsy rig anyway, but I've also got a portable rig, and setting that up, and then an hour later it's cloudy, and you've got to take it all down. That's quite frustrating. But just anything and everything. I love shooting nebulas, galaxies. I haven't really got enough focal length to go on those distant galaxies, but that may be sorted soon because I've bought another a Meade 2000.
Breaking news!
Breaking news. That's in the process of being built up as a permanent rig. So, which leads me to say that I might be purchasing another camera here at the show this weekend, but we'll see about that one.
You mentioned an observatory, and that brought up something interesting to me. How do you think that having an observatory has changed astronomy for you?
Actually, that has done so much for me. Just being able to press a button and let it do its thing is great, and not having to worry about taking it all down. All you got to do is just close the roof, and now I've got Nina there closing the roof for me, which is integrated in the sequence. Is so good. I mean, I can literally set it going at like 8 o'clock in the evening and go to bed at 11 o'clock, get up at 6 in the morning, the roof is shut, it's all done for me. Good old Nina has shut the roof. That is a bit of a concern, will the roof actually shut? But yeah, I haven't had a problem. It's been great. It's made a big difference to me. Before, when I didn't have an observatory, I was having to set everything up manually, you know, take it all down. It was such a pain. But no, I really don't mind it now. It's great. I love it.
I think we'll have to just postpone this interview as an announcement is going off. Okay, sorry about the interruption. Let's pick up from where we left off. We've just been talking about observatories and how that kind of changed the game for you. But I wanted to also ask, next, what is your favourite type of target to shoot? What's the thing you enjoy the most?
I think probably nebulas. I do like the nebulas.
I asked Arnstein the same thing, and he actually answered the same. He really enjoys the nebula too. Yeah. For me, it's galaxies. I don't know if I've mentioned before, but
right.
Yeah.
I do love the galaxies. I can only shoot the close ones. I can't shoot those little ones because I don't have enough focal length.
As you mentioned, I guess that's, with that second rig coming up, though, it's going to open up the skies to you quite a lot more, I'd say, isn't it? Are you looking forward to that?
I am, but there's a little bit of work to get it up and running.
If you were just starting out again now and you could speak to yourself and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Well, I started off with a star tracker. I would say I couldn't wait to get onto an equatorial mount, a full go-to mount. So my advice would be, if you can afford it, skip the star tracker, go straight to a full EQ mount, a go-to mount.
I think that's really good advice, to be honest. I've had fun with star trackers before, but they do restrict what you can do.
They're great to start out with, but it wasn't long before I really wanted to...
Outgrew it.
Yeah, I outgrew it, totally.
So, one final thing then, I guess. Have you got anything you'd like to say, any advice for anybody, or just any final thoughts?
Final thoughts? Just enjoy it. Do what you can. Just look up at the stars and enjoy. I mean, I still enjoy. I mean, I enjoy being with the gear, but I also enjoy just sitting there and looking up at the stars and enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I'm at, to be honest. That's really the key. As long as you're enjoying it, you're doing everything right. So, yeah, thanks very much indeed, mate.
Oh, great.
For chatting to me.
Great to see you again.
A little interview. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Alright then, guys, so I'm joined for another interview here by Glenn Clowder this time. If you'd like to introduce yourself and your channel and tell us a little bit about that first.
Glenn Clowder, yes, Cloud, I know. And I have the YouTube channel called Astrobloke.
Yeah, he's got a wonderful YouTube channel. Check the description box down below. I'll have a link to your channel there, Glenn. Lots and lots and lots of really helpful videos. That's what he does best, I think, is really getting the message out there and helping people. So keep up the good work there, mate.
Thank you, mate.
I wanted to ask, when did you get into astronomy? And we'll ask that first. I'll cut myself short.
Okay, well, I always liked it. I always used to do time lapses and things like that, but seriously, it was 2019. I remember it was August, and I was in Spain. I was in, I've forgotten the place, Arbelayos in Spain, at my in-laws' place, and we went up the mountains. It's about, I would say, about a bort or two. Milky Way was just punching, and I looked at it, and I knew about long exposure photography because I do lots of mucking about, and I just took an image really. I had a Canon M3 little mirrorless camera, and I went to take a time lapse. But the in-laws got bored, and they said, "We want to go now," and I was like, I could stay there all night. So I only got about 22 images. Which wasn't enough for a time lapse, but then I found out about, I went online to find what I could do with my images really to make them look better, and then I found out about stacking, stacked them, and the picture just literally blew my mind, and that was it. And then I was like, I found Trevor Jones, Chuck from Chuck's Astrophotography, and I fell into the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole runs deep. Yeah. Me too. We're going to ask as an additional part to that, what really gets you going with astronomy these days? So what's the thing that's not only got you started but kept you going?
I mean, I'm a geek. There's no two ways about it, and I love technical rubbish. Yeah, anything techie, I'm there. You know, so I've always mucked about with photography anyway. I always used to do like macro, ND filters with long exposures, time lapses, hyperlapses. So for me, astrophotography really sort of ticks all those sort of boxes of like challenging photography. And I think there's just something so magical about it that you're imaging something you can't actually see. And when those first images come through, they really grab you. And then you just sort of, when you get into it and you start pushing those images and getting that data and you see more and more being revealed, there's just something about it. It really excites me. But recently, what's really grabbed me is going out and about again. I went out with Simon and a guy called Paul to see the Geminids. We went down to Dunwich Beach. We just took our DSLRs, and it was the first meteor shower I've actually watched.
Right.
I haven't watched one before. Set all our cameras up, and we took deck chairs, sat on the beach, and for about 2-3 hours, I just sat back and just stared and was just watching this meteor shower, and I tell you, it was I just so loved it.
I can imagine. Yeah,
it really did sort of and it's made me want to go back out now with my DSLR a lot more and venture out to places. I keep meaning to make a calendar, and I always think about it in about November, which is not a very good time to think about.
A little bit late, yeah.
So it's a plan I've got, and I kind of want to try and do it this year. I want to try and do a calendar that sort of would be like of iconic areas of where I live now in Suffolk, with like nightscapes.
Breaking news, look out for it.
Yeah, it's what I'd like to try and do. And as I say, now I've got my observatory, the deep sky stuff is just a lot easier to get into, and I'm still loving that and exploring just different targets. Like to try and find things I haven't found before, you know. On
the note of observatories, then, it kind of ties into you mentioning you want to get out more and things like that. How do you feel that having an observatory has changed astrophotography for you?
I'd say it's got pros and cons, if I'm honest. The pros are it means you never miss an opportunity. It's like tonight, I'm away from home, but I've been able to remote in on my phone, open my roof and image. So I've got some data of the jellyfish nebula, which I wouldn't normally be able to do. And you wouldn't be able to do that without an observatory. But an observatory has also made me, I was talking before, it's made me a bit lazy, because it's so easy to just say, I'll just push this button and it's doing its thing. And then you kind of it's an effort to take a rig out, say, for instance. But I think that's why when I went out and did the Geminids, that was such a refreshing thing, as it kind of re-sparked me to go, do you know what, it is worth making that extra effort to go out, set something up.
That really resonates, yeah. I was saying the same thing earlier on at dinner to one of our friends, and for me, I think the most enjoyable and strongest memories of astrophotography came when I've put the effort in and got outside. Do you know what I mean? I really enjoy the observatory, quite as Glenn's saying, I couldn't agree more. But it's not the same as getting out there, is it? It's not.
I mean, the pluses of an observatory are you don't have all the gremlins as such, because once you've got it set up and working, it works just at a push of a button, and it's lovely to be able to grab that data. But you do need that kind of challenge, I think, because that's what puts this hobby apart from a lot of other hobbies. That challenge, because I think with the challenge, when you do get that image, it feels that all the more sweeter.
The challenge makes the reward all the better, yeah. So what would you say is your favourite type of target then? What's the thing that gets your blood pumping and always revs you up?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's a hard question. Do you know, it's so different. It just depends on my mood, really. Because I love, say, going wide field with a camera. But I do love getting it's detail. If I can bring out some detail on something that I've not seen before, or that really does. It makes me go, I want to push more now. And I think also I always revisit targets to try and improve on it. You know, I never give up. You know, I just say I can do better.
Kind of year on year, keep going back and hitting those targets as they come around.
You know, I just think, you've got to kind of challenge yourself as well a little bit, you know, because that keeps it fresh, you know. I never get bored with it, though.
No, me either. I was going to ask as well, one kind of final thing. I've kept you for a while, and I'm sorry, but what advice would you give yourself if you were just starting out now and you could talk to your past self and say, Glenn, listen, what would it be?
Right, that again, very good question. I think I made a mistake at the beginning of buying the wrong equipment at first, but I didn't. To be fair, there wasn't as much information out there that there is now, and I think choosing the right setup for what you want to do is important. So it's like really think about what do you really enjoy doing. Is it deep sky? Is it planetary? Is it wide field? And then once you sort of decided what you really want to do, then look at all the options of what there is. I think there's a lot more information out there now for people to make a good choice. But to be honest with you, advice, don't know, leave your credit card at home.
That's as good advice as you're going to get. That is. Oh, that's absolutely fantastic, Glenn. Thanks for spending some time, mate. Absolute pleasure as always. All right, guys, we've got another interview for you here from my friend Rick. It's great to meet you, and I wanted to be asking you a few different questions. So basically, let's start off by, when did you get into astronomy or astrophotography?
Got into astronomy about 2020, 2021, something like that, yeah.
So kind of pandemic sort of period, and that's when it all started for you. What actually got you into astronomy?
I came across a random video on YouTube. I couldn't even tell you exactly what the target was, and I saw this random target on YouTube. I couldn't even tell you what it was or who did the video, and I thought, really fancy doing that. Couldn't say why, and I said to my other half, I said, I'm going to buy a telescope because I really want to do that. And that was it. So it was just like something hit me out of nowhere. I just thought, that's what I want to do.
What would you say is your favourite type of target then to shoot?
It's really difficult to say. I suppose it depends on what mood I'm in. I mean, I started off with a 1000mm Skywatcher Quattro 250p, and then I thought that was really quite good. At 1000mm, I started with a reflector. I went against all of the advice from the dealers saying don't start that big, don't start with a 10-inch because it's too big. Go for something smaller, go for a refractor, and I thought, well, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go mono, and I was like, oh, definitely don't do that. You know, don't take it all on. And I did, and I sort of like looked at what I could get. I saw the wide field stuff, and I thought 1000mm was a sweet spot. And then I sort of started at 1000mm. Then I went wider field, so the GT81 about 450, 500mm, and then I went the other extreme scale and got the RC10.
So you've been going a few years now.
Yeah.
If you could speak to yourself a few years back and say, listen, Rick, do this, what would you have to say to yourself?
Well, the thing I'd say to myself is, ask yourself what it is you want to do. I mean, I get asked quite often, what's your best telescope? And it depends what you're trying to image, you know, because there is no such thing as the best telescope. Well, if I'm trying to image, say, M31, I wouldn't use my 5400mm planetary scope because you're not going to get anywhere. So I would say, do what you want to do a lot of research, Yeah, and don't be put off, especially if you're going to get into reflector telescope. Don't be put off by collimation. I know it's something you've said many a time. You know, people give you scare stories about collimation, this, that, and the other. It's like riding a bike. Yes, it's daunting. I was terrified. I don't mind admitting I was quite collimation, but you do it once, you get used to it. And collimating a telescope, you know, everything from an imaging Newtonian to an RC and everything in between. Right, well, like you said yourself, it's just like, you know, you do it, you get used to it.
Yeah.
It takes no more than a couple of minutes, and it's daunting and it's scary, but you get used to it. So I suppose my advice for somebody trying to get into it, especially if you're looking at a budget scope, you get more bang for your buck going down the reflector route. So yeah, assuming it's something you want to get into, go for, I don't know, let's say 150mm reflector, because that way you get a really good insight into it. You see a lot. You don't have to fork out £1,000 plus for, say, a refractor. Yeah, and just go from there. And if you like what you do, you can sort of build it up that way.
Now, one thing that we got talking about earlier, and you've emailed me before about this, and I've featured one of Rick's tools on my channel, a reintegrate stars script. What kind of got you started with that side of things? Because that's an entire new level of technicality, you know what I mean, that I'm totally unfamiliar with.
Well, I'm a professional programmer. It's what I do day to day. So I write software, build networks, and deploy software for companies and things like that all over the world. And I got so sick and tired of using the same pixel math over and over again, and I thought, what am I doing? You know, just doing like rinse and repeat the same thing. So I thought, well, I teach myself JPRS, which is basically just a variant of JavaScript anyway. So it was relatively straightforward, and within about 4 or 5 hours I'd written the reintegrate stars, and then I had people test it, refined it, tweaked it, a few more tweaks. I believe memory serves version 4.2 at the minute, as I recall. And yeah, the feedback for, you know, thank you to anybody that's used it. The feedback has been absolutely amazing. You know, I set out to do something to try and make other people's lives easier. And I've had emails and people thanking me for releasing it, and obviously it's like, you know, we do it to try and help the community out, and it's been really well received. I was very nervous. I wasn't even going to release it. I actually wrote it for my own use. Right. And I was speaking to somebody in one of the Facebook groups, and I said, do you want to try this? He said, you know, it's amazing. Why don't you release it? I was like, because I'm scared. I've never sort of, like, I don't mind sort of working for a company, never sort of seen the light today, but to sort of front something that's a script, you know, people in the Astro community tend to be quite critical, very sort of like, it has to be perfect, and I was a bit daunted, but yeah, I mean, I couldn't even tell you who it was that convinced me to build a repository and release it, but I did. And I know it's not a massively complicated script, it's nothing spectacular, but it does make life a lot easier when it comes to it.
It certainly does. Yeah. I mean, there'll be a link in the description box just down below to Rick's repository if you want to get that reintegrate stars script. And I don't know if I should announce anything or not, but you are working on something else, and there will be more to come on that in the future. But you mentioned something very interesting to me earlier on, and that is about in terms of observatories. You've got quite a big plan. Are you comfortable sharing that with people?
I don't see why not. Yeah.
Okay, so go for it.
Yeah. Well, there's a plan in the pipeline. As things stand at the minute, is we've possibly secured a property in Bulgaria, Portal 2 Sky, 2,500 square metres of land, and the plan is to build one or more observatory arrays or telescope arrays, and either offer hosting to people that want to sort of send their gear that we can sort of set up and insure and keep it running. And then also have scopes that we rent out. Obviously, we are going to try and keep things as absolutely competitive as we can in terms of, obviously we want people to use it, we want people to enjoy it. We're going to always be on site and maintain the equipment, so it's always going to be collimated, it's always going to be kept. I've heard a few horror stories about certain other experiences where people have paid a lot of money to rent telescopes, and they've had obviously not perfect data, but we're going to try and mitigate any issues. We're going to try and be fair with people, because at the end of the day we still want to remain an active part of the community. So yeah, that is the plan. We're going to start with a 9-scope array, a couple of plane wave mounts and some 10 micron stuff. We're going to try and sort of decide what focal length to have and things like that. As I said, it's a learning curve really. Yeah. So I can't say that every part of the plan is totally worked out yet. All I know is that we're looking at a Portal 2 Sky, and the internet connection in Bulgaria is very good. We're talking about gigabit internet. So I've been led to believe, I might be wrong, somebody might correct you on that. You might get a comment saying, Luke, you got that. But if I'm wrong, I apologise. Don't blame Luke for it. But in any case, that's the plan as it stands. So we're going to try and make great skies available to everybody at a competitive price, because I personally think, and you might say I'm wrong, but I think what people are charging for telescope rental, I think it's unaffordable for a lot of people, especially for people that just want to dabble. And that isn't to say that the equipment is going to be substandard, because it isn't, but I personally feel like the prices could be a little bit more affordable, especially more so for outreach and trying to get people into it and get people involved. Of course,
absolutely.
There's no substitute for capturing your own data. Thankfully, I'll be able to capture my own data under the Bortle 2 Sky that we're going to be getting. But my sort of plan is to try and sort of roll that out to as many people as we can. We're also going to open it as a retreat, so people can show up in person with their own gear under Bortle 2 Skies. We're going to have a bar and everything else. Hopefully, touch wood, everything goes to plan.
Touch wood.
Absolutely.
Yes. That sounds absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can't stress enough how huge of a challenge I think that's all going to be. But this is a very smart guy. If anybody can do it, he can. So, I'm sure it's going to happen, and I can't wait to hear more about that, mate. Well, I just want to ask you if there's any final thoughts you want to share with people at home, and any message you want to leave them with.
Astronomy, we've not really had great weather. It's still a great hobby. It's frustrating, it's challenging. So if ever you want to become a masochist and you decide you really hate yourself, get into astronomy. Not really. It's a fantastic hobby. It really is. And we need all the people we can get, really, to sort of spread the love and spread the word, because it's a fantastic thing to do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much indeed for spending your time with an interview with me, mate. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the absolute best of luck in Bulgaria. Right, so we're at the Practical Astronomy Show floor today. I've just got here recently. I've just met my friend Rob. Good to see you. He's got a YouTube channel, if you'd like to just introduce that for people.
Hello, my name's Rob, and I've got my YouTube channel, Seven Skies Astro.
He's got a really wonderful channel, as Rob. He's made a lot of great content so far, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come yet. So check out the link in the description box down below to that. You can give him a subscribe if you don't mind showing some support. I'm sure it'd be greatly received. When did you get into astronomy?
Well, astronomy, I've been into astronomy since I was maybe 9 or 10.
So what really got you into it, though, would you say?
Well, actually, I think it was watching the sky at night and stuff like that when I was younger, but it was on ever so late. Yeah. So you usually get to catch up on a Saturday. Yeah. So that's where I first got into it.
I mean, I unfortunately missed that kind of era. I guess would it have been Patrick Moore and that? Yeah. I am jealous. I'd love to have seen those kind of things. I think that'll fuel a lot of people's interest in astronomy, and it sounds like it did for you too. But what would you say has kept the fires stoked and kept you going over time?
I think it's a lot of the new discoveries, space telescopes, stuff like that. And when you watch see the images from Hubble and stuff, it just inspires you. And I suppose that's what I started getting into astrophotography after that, because my eyes were getting a little bit old, and I couldn't quite see what I was seeing anymore. So then I got into astrophotography,
I think for me, I started off myself in visual astronomy a little bit earlier than astrophotography, and because of the light pollution where I live, that kind of shoved me towards astrophotography, because you always want to see more, or at least I did, and that was the way. I was going to ask, what kind of advice would you have for a beginner, or maybe even if you could talk to your past self and say, listen, focus on this?
I'd say one of the first things to do, if you're an absolute beginner, get yourself a little planisphere and maybe a nice pair of binoculars, wide field binoculars, and basically get out there and just look. Get familiar with the constellations, and you can certainly see most of the Messier objects with a nice pair of 8x50 binoculars, something like that. And that's what I would recommend.
I think that's really good advice. I wish I'd have started out with some binoculars, actually. I did start out with a too large telescope, and it was a pain. I didn't know how to collimate or anything like that, you know what I mean? Is there anything you want to say to people, you know what I mean?
Just watch my channel. Apart from that.
Should have opened with that. That's the good one.
No. Not in a particular one. So I just the astrophotography, the astronomy community is very much a life spirited community, I think. And I've never met anybody that's been rude or not mindful of everybody, being polite, stuff like that. There's no bitterness or anything like that I've found. Not like a football thing where you got the rivalries and stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody
It's
is
integral, isn't it? Rivalry in football.
That's what I find. Everybody rooting for each other.
Yeah, to riff off what you mentioned, everybody I've ever met in this kind of game has been really nice, and I kind of went into videography and things like that just by accident, but I kept doing it because of the people, you know what I mean? Such as yourself, you've been there right from the start, showing support, and you know, put it there, mate. Honestly, I couldn't thank you enough.
I do remember when you
couldn't thank you enough. Yeah, I was really timid on camera and things, but now it's quite normal. But yeah, it's always been interesting anyway to talk to, mate, and hear different opinions on things. And thank you very much for taking some time to chat to us, Rob.
Yes.
Check out his channel. All right, so practical astronomy show floor today, and I'm joined by my friend Corin Lewis. It's great to meet you again, mate.
Good to meet you, Luke.
Basically asking people some basic questions, a little mini interview, if you will, to offer some different perspectives on astronomy and what makes people tick.
Okay.
So, how long have you been into astronomy or astrophotography?
About 5 years now. I started to get into it really about 2017, 2018. And I'm going to say the word, Trevor Jones was a big inspiration for that.
That's fair.
And I got my first DSLR camera, and I got that modified and decided to shoot images of Orion, and then started from there.
That's basically how I started out as well. My first shot was of Orion.
Yeah,
and,
everybody loves Orion.
Yeah, I still do.
I still do. It's like a romance.
What would you say got you into astronomy then overall?
I was born in the UK and raised in the Caribbean, so even when I went up party, I would come home at 4 o'clock in the morning, sit down on the driveway and look up at the stars with my Japanese Akita and stuff and everything else. So I was always into it. But when I came over here and stuff, I got into astrophotography. First I was doing like viewing with my telescope. I still have it, Celestron 130 EQ.
Still got it.
So I was using that during the pandemic and looking at Saturn and Jupiter and everything else, and that's really fast to be looked through that. And then decided to get into astrophotography. Looked up some of it with the cloud magnets like Ryan and David Ford and stuff and everything else. And they've been a great help getting me through stuff. I don't consider myself great at it, but I'm learning. I'm coming along. You've helped out a bit.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right. There you go.
So what would you say is your favourite type of object to shoot, or do you not have a particular favourite?
That's an interesting question. I like shooting nebula.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might get into planetary at some point. But I like shooting nebula. The ones that I try to get like I did the Rosette the other day for the first time. Imaged that, and I was surprised it came up really great. And other stuff, because I live in Greater London, in Tottenham, and it's as bad as it gets, border night skies. So it's a challenge to get stuff from there, but you can. But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Corin's had some beautiful results so far, and only progressing as time goes on, aren't you? So
yeah.
What would you perhaps have as advice then for maybe yourself, if you could speak to yourself when you're just starting out, or offer some advice to a beginner just looking at getting started in astrophotography? Because I think it's quite a daunting hobby, maybe to get started in, but you've done it, I've done it. So what would you say maybe as a little bit of advice?
Start small. Start small. Get a DSLR camera, play around with it. You'll probably be fascinated. I look at some of my things I did in Barbados with a DSLR camera, some out of focus stars, and I still love it, even with the out of focus stars, because they're like really great, because it's like where you started. And also, funny enough, My mom in Barbados, who is about 89, I said, well, she can't really look at things on the phone, so I decided to print the pictures, I think, so she could actually see them.
Oh, that's really
But
sweet.
it actually worked. So it actually, in a way, it worked out good for me because I could see my progress year from year.
Yeah.
So if I took around the year, I could see last year, and I could actually look down and said, that ain't half bad. So yeah, you could always print the pictures, put them in a photo album, and then look back a year later and see what your progress is like, which is like, I would say, like inspiration for yourself. Especially you get like, there you go.
That's really, really, really good advice. I'd say keep a record. Yeah, 100%. I think that's great. Without really thinking about doing it, I've done the same thing. It does keep you motivated, I think, as you say, looking back and thinking, wow, I actually am progressing. What are you most looking forward to upcoming in the world of astronomy?
Astronomy has come so far in the last 5 years. You know, you got like plate solving and stuff and everything else. It's hard to put a finger on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that good at it. I mean, I usually do Nina and all the other software stuff and everything, and it works so well together. And it's just like, you just click and there you go.
Yeah.
And it just, like a couple of years ago, like 2018, you will have to be looking, I got a book out and stuff and everything. Everything's up, automated, and I think now they're talking about putting AI into it and that sort of stuff. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. I think things are progressing so fast, and pretty much all the progress is for the better. So I can't wait to see where the future of astronomy goes at this point. I'd just like to say thanks very much for taking the time to speak to me, Corin. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Give my best to you and the family, mate.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
All right, and guess we're here at the Practical Astronomy Show, and I'm joined by none other than Rosine. Put it there, mate. Really, really good to see you again.
See you, mate.
As always, it's a pleasure. Would you care to introduce your channel to people?
Yeah, so I do a channel called AstroFarsography, which was a play on the words of astrophotography and my surname. I started it in December 2018, and I think the last time I checked there's about 15,000 subscribers on it, which is weird. So, yeah, I do vlogs, reviews, camera equipment, anything to help people out in this hobby. That's what I like to do.
Tremendous. Yeah, definitely check out the link in the description box down below. There'll be one point to Rosine's channel there. Check him out. If you don't already know of him, please, go check him out. Honestly, you won't regret it. So I've been asking people some basic questions today, and the first of which, generally speaking, has been, when did you get into astrophotography or astronomy?
So I've always had a love for astronomy in some way, shape or form throughout my whole life, but I think in around, would have been 2014 or something, I went through a particularly bad breakup, and I kind of rekindled looking at astronomy, space, planets, etc. like that. And then my brother and his wife saw that, and they got me a little Celestron T70 Explorer scope for Christmas. And within about an hour, I was already trying to get my phone on it to try and take pictures of the moon. So that led into one thing. Then I started buying a lot, doing all the research how to do astrophotography, buying a lot of equipment. Yeah, I think I had a rig in 2016, but I didn't really do much until around December 2018 when I started my channel.
I know, because I started watching his channel very early on, actually. I was one of your first subscribers.
Really?
Yeah, I was very early on, yeah.
I don't like those early videos.
I do. They were great.
I mean, I love them, but they're just, when you look back at it as an editor or filmer, you're like, oh, the lighting is terrible. I'm stuttering so much more. It's a skill, though. You get better with it in time.
100%. So what would you say is the thing that motivates you to keep on going with it? Because it can be a very, very challenging hobby at time, and especially not even just the technical challenges, but things that you can't control whatsoever, like the weather that we've been having. What keeps you going?
Yeah, the classic British weather. Keeps me going is just that I think it's a good scaler. It brings you all together. Like everyone has this whimsical view that, oh, it really puts you in your place in the universe, that we're so small compared to the vastness. I enjoyed the technical challenge behind it.
Okay.
Like I appreciate the arty side of it, the photography side, everything like that. But I really like the technical side of it. So it was actually getting all the equipment talking together, framing it, all the coordinates, the actual physics behind it.
Yeah.
I quite like the technical side of it. And that's kind of evolved now into helping other people with it as well, because I do tutorials and reviews and things like that. And it's not a cheap hobby, it's an expensive hobby. with a lot of pitfalls, and I enjoy the fact that I had the opportunity to get review equipment. If I can do it and it helps someone make a more informed purchase, that's great. And if it helps someone make and edit a video or keep in the hobby, then I've done my job as far as I'm aware.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, as you say, I think trying to help people, for me as well, has been one of the major driving factors in keeping going with it. I think even without the YouTubing and things like that, I'd want to continue doing it kind of forevermore, perhaps in a smaller way than I do now. But yeah, helping people, that's definitely one of the things that really drives me too. One more thing then, if you had some advice for yourself, if you could like kind of reach back through time and shake past Rosine and say, listen, here's what you should do, would you have anything to say to yourself? Or if not, any advice just targeted at a beginner, perhaps getting started now?
If I look back at what I bought in 2016, I would say, first of all, a Newtonian is great. Don't start with a Newtonian. Because I started with a 150p DS Newtonian, Skywatcher 150, so 6-inch Newtonian telescope, which was about yay long. And it was great, but it's so unwieldy, and you have to collimate it and everything like that. And it was just getting on my nerves a bit. And then as soon as I got the Skywatcher 80 ED, which is a refractor, just popped it on the mount, and it's like, done.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to use. So definitely a piece of advice is it might be really interesting to get the really big telescopes. Everyone's got their 300 millimeter telescopes and stuff. Don't run for them, because the best telescope is the one you're going to use. So even if that's like a 72 millimeter APO refractor or a 61 millimeter APO refractor, or if it is the 10-inch Newtonian, get the one you're going to use.
Yeah. I think that's really, 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 really good advice. Heed it, beginners out there. Well, I won't take any more of your time, Rosine. I'd just like to say, as always, mate, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you for the time. Cheers.
Well then guys, I think that's just about a wrap on this one now. I'm just putting in the final few touches to the editing software as I actually record this last little segment for you. But I just wanted to take a moment to say I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it, actually. It was nice to be able to do something different and share it with you. So I hope you've enjoyed that. As always, I'm going to finish by just saying, hand on heart, thank you. I do appreciate you all out there and the support that you guys give. It's not lost on me, really, the fact that I couldn't be doing any of this without your support. So I just want to let you know that you are appreciated, and I want to thank you very genuinely. So I'm going to leave it at that. Won't go on too long, and I hope that you look after yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, with any luck, clear skies.